there I am. Hi. My actual application reference is titled Multi-World Champion Martial Artist and Content Creator Seeking Long-Term Sponsorship. Summary of who I am and a call to action. I sort of did that so I could be flagged as someone who is looking for a partnership, but I'm just eligible for this round of one-off funding as well, which is nice. So if I just scroll through, this is 14 pages, right? 14 pages. So I got photos here to illustrate it a little, break it up. We did some basic formatting, but it is a Google Doc, so you know, it's not gonna be great. I did a financial breakdown at the end. And I'm going to do a similar thing to this with my new one where I've just done the structure and I've got to fill out each individual segment. I was working on this until I got the email about the sponsorship, and now I've sort of pivoted to catch up on that. But I will just read this for you. I'm going to read this and hopefully I end up with a nice bit of footage that I can cut together into a normal video. So I segmented this into my background, my career, my training, expanding my skill sets, going international, and then the financial breakdown with options A through F of how they could support me, because I gave them choices. If I'm paying to apply for this because I paid like the additional fees, then I'm giving them choices. I'm not doing a different application per option. Welcome, reader. Thank you for taking my proposal under consideration. I'm not sure how long the documents you usually receive are, but I have a reason to believe this will be longer than your typical candidate. I also fully believe it will be worth your time. Bear in mind, I wrote this in like 2 days. It was a bit of a fever dream amongst other work. It was a very, very introspective moment for me. I made it in January this year, 2026. So my background. Providing some context to me as an individual, my name is Georgia Debney. I'm a 27-year-old woman based in Manchester city centre, UK. My career. I describe myself as a full-stack digital marketer with a content marketing specialism, including 14 years experience in video production. Primarily, I run my own business, DebbersDo, which offers content creation and digital marketing services to clients, as well as selling my own products via my shop page. Though most of my efforts go to producing content for my own brand, in order to generate ad revenue, I particularly focus on my YouTube channel and blog page, as well as cross-posting to other social media platforms. My other disciplines at this time include photography, content/copywriting, digital art, social media management, SEO, web design, e-commerce, PPC, email marketing, and product design. I'm a chronically online self-educator who can't be satisfied with good enough. I need to keep digging until I unlock an actual degree of competency. Now remember, I tried to keep my personality in this. Due to the natural instability of this work, I sometimes take on fixed-term contracts in a part-time employed capacity when I need a bit of a cash injection. Unfortunately, as most of my income is considered unreliable, and the fact I will soon be forced to move out of my current rental, I may be compelled to take on a full-time role that will disrupt my existing lifestyle. I prefer a greater degree of flexibility, so I enjoy taking on seasonal exam invigilation work at the Manchester College, where I used to attend and was awarded the Media and Visual Arts Student of the Year Award 2016. I believe I'm now going into my third year invigilating, though I can't say I'm tracking that closely. They like to give me the SEND students who need special access accommodations, as I find working with those examinees very fulfilling, and I'm often complimented on my ability to communicate well with them. I also have another 0-hour contract where I act as a video operator, essentially managing Zoom calls for multi-billion-dollar American corporations and operating as a bit of a bouncer, as the information in these meetings is highly confidential. Though the non-committal nature of these roles are great for slotting in alongside my business, the last-minute nature of the shift pattern can be a bit disruptive to my business activities, and the inconsistent numbers don't reassure letting agents or mortgage advisors. Despite my high earning potential, the irregularity of my work often leaves me capped out in overall cash before I have to go back to draining my savings, meaning I can never feel truly relaxed. This all makes my living situation rather precarious at the moment. My training. I started Taekwondo when I was about 8 years old and trained consistently until around the time I took my GCSEs. I had 5 years out while I focused more on my education and chosen career field. I regretted the break, but I'm glad it happened in the end. I was due to take my black belt grading at the same time as my GCSEs and just got totally burnt out. But it helped me rediscover my passion for the art after learning what it felt like to go without it. It also meant my health began to decline enough that the symptoms I'd always thought were normal people things were exacerbated to the point where I finally got diagnosed with fibromyalgia and hypermobility, in addition to my existing psoriasis. This was around 2017-18. I was also diagnosed with osteoarthritis and de Quervain's tendinovitis in my right hand in 2025. I was only back at training for 5 months when I had my first competition as an adult. I won a gold and a silver medal at that event, got a bit addicted, and started competing on average once a month at Taekwondo competitions across the UK, with a few freestyle striking events for good measure. In that time, I won the International Taekwondo Council's Competitor of the Year award, leading to an invite to join their squad, of which I was a member for 4 years. I was invited to Olympic trials, a different style of Taekwondo though, so I didn't enjoy it and didn't pursue that. I studied Changhon style. Olympics is WT style, for people who don't know about Taekwondo in the summary. And I only had a single competition where I didn't place on the podium. I'd like to think I could have pulled it back in the last event, but they had to cancel the end because they ran over, so we'll never know. I regularly win gold in sparring divisions, but have attained at least 1 gold medal in all events: sparring, patterns, special technique, destruction, and speed kicking. I do also have 1 bronze medal from a mixed gender destruction event. I don't pay much mind to sexism in martial arts as it's a needless distraction, but this feels like a good time to mention that I've trained with more men than women in my life. Though gender doesn't even slightly dictate ability, I feel compelled to point out that I would happily compete in sparring with men if it were permitted and accurately weight matched. Now, I felt the need to add this to my application because I feel like it's a nice point that would differentiate me from the other martial artists that they have given funding to, because the week I was applying I noticed that they had a lot of martial artists when previously they hadn't, and a lot of them were women, so I needed to differentiate myself in a way somehow. Having written that, feels like an Easter egg for what's coming next. I'm a 2nd Dan black belt at this time and will be going for my 3rd Dan late 2026. Though the club I attend, SCN Taekwondo, is very small, I'm currently the 2nd most senior, second only to my instructor. Though I don't accept formal instructing responsibilities, it's been made very clear to me that our colour belt members see me as a pillar to lean on. I also feel compelled to assist where possible at wider community events within my club's organisation, the Great Britain Taekwondo Federation, and the UK Taekwondo community by and large. These relationships have mainly been built through travelling to compete at my own expense, sleeping in disgusting cheap hotels, and crashing at club owners' couches in exchange for setting up the competition hall at 7 AM on event days, plus the odd bit of reffing, when I could be on the mats until 5 PM. Taking buses and trains for up to 16 hours, sometimes going further out of my way only so I could sleep over and get a lift to a more obscure location, or so I could get the cheapest travel. Getting travel sick so I could work on my laptop while in transit and tolerating practically non-existent internet connections. Trekking around with not just my martial arts equipment but film equipment as well, then trying to make friends at events where I knew nobody just so I could get footage of my fights. I have about a year's backlog of competition footage just waiting to be edited as soon as I get a minute to breathe. Hopefully soon. It never felt like an annoyance because it all contributed to getting to fight stronger opponents and meeting other people who felt as passionate as I did. I do have a few international connections in the martial arts world, though they're not very strong. I'd like the opportunity to explore that further and meet them in person. In the past year, I've tried to focus on expanding my local martial arts network here in Manchester. Despite the Team GB Taekwondo Centre being based here, the Changhon/ITF scene is rather small. This has led me to doing taster sessions with people I know in Muay Thai, boxing and kickboxing circles nearby. I've had some of these people guest on my podcast series With Respect. Now I'd like to use this new local network to launch something I call the Your Corner program, essentially a short intensive scheme where I take on a single athlete at a time, not as their primary coach, but to provide specific competition training, building their strategy, telling them what to expect in a competition environment, how to eat in the weeks before versus the day of the event, what little extra bits to pack in your bag for a fight day, and yes, some extra training too. I've done this successfully with one friend so far as a free test run, and they have put me in touch with a potential first client. I also enjoy weightlifting to the degree that I have a power rack in my living room as part of my home gym, which I sometimes stream workouts from. As well as just enjoying lifting heavy circles, I use strength training as my primary form of treatment for all my autoimmune/musculoskeletal conditions. My squat PR is 110 kilograms, deadlift is 105 kilograms, and my bench press is far less impressive, about 45 kilograms. My squat and deadlift have gone up since then. I think my bench press is lower. I'm active enough that government benefits like PIP are out of the question for me. I've been rejected and have even had a legal charity explain to me that I'm exactly the sort of person they eliminated DLA because of. All my conditions are chronic, so I want to avoid destroying my organs with a lifetime of painkillers that will leave me drowsy and sedentary. Intense exercise at the semi-pro level is physiotherapy for me. I need to spend multiple hours to get through a training session that could take normal people 45 minutes, or so I can live a standard day to day. All of this lives under the umbrella of DebbersDo, a more casual brand of mine that I use to document my martial arts/fitness experiences. I'm hoping to use this opportunity to leverage it into a secondary business as opposed to a stop-start hobby I fit around work. Expanding my skill sets. You can see on my DebbersDo YouTube channel Then I coached a friend of mine to their first boxing win, and this friend decided they wanted to do something similar, but something that allowed more than hands only. They signed up for Ultra MMA, and I decided to take part with them too, since they offer 2 months of free training as part of the program, and I wanted to fill some knowledge gaps when it came to grappling. They have pretty much all the details available on their website if you want to dig into it, but it's essentially a beginner-friendly scheme where everyone trains at a local participating MMA gym a few times a week for 2 months, culminating in a big black tie fight night with hundreds of spectators and also media documenting it to be published online later. Participants are expected to fundraise for charity via their partner platform GiveStar.io, with the aspiration to raise a minimum of £50 and then also sell tickets. If the athlete can't sell 10 tickets under their name by the second week of training, then they're taken off the board. I, however, have already compiled an email list of people from my network and beyond, where I will be providing regular updates once training commences, and I have no concern about my ability to meet these quotas without intervention, though I'd naturally always welcome greater contributions. And I did meet them on time. The first time. The second time I was a little late, but I sold more tickets. And also, I had multiple months to prep selling tickets for the first one. I had like a week to prep selling tickets for the second one. So my charity of choice isn't finalized yet, but it's between 2 possibilities. Either a place I used to work as a digital marketer called the Anderton Centre, but that may not be possible due to some bureaucratic issues stopping them from getting on GiveStar, or Age UK Wigan, as my former boss from Anderton is now the CEO there and is excited about the idea of me running a boxercise style class for them as part of a campaign. Both charities are focused on providing exercise and wellness opportunities to the disadvantaged and vulnerable in the community. Athletes are allowed to have up to 4 sponsors for the event. The standard recommendation from Ultra MMA is to request the sponsor donate £50 to the charity fundraising page in return for having their name read out during the walk-on. I think that's boring, so I'm in discussions with a few small businesses and organisations about expanding contributions and responsibilities. Unfortunately, none have solidified so far. And spoiler alert, none of them did, because of bureaucracy. I was nagging them, and a lot of people, everyone I was talking to was enthusiastic, but somewhere along the chain someone went, nah, can't be asked. Not even no sometimes, just no one's job to care. My biggest lead was the Manchester College, and I had great enthusiasm from the exam team I work with, but legal bounced back the proposal due to restrictions on only being able to offer donations to educational causes. I'd argue my pitch had multiple elements that were educationally beneficial, especially as the Anderton Centre is associated with the University of Greater Manchester, formerly known as Bolton University, but that discussion has been shut down as of now. My initial thoughts were to ask the college if they would be willing to cover the cost of new sparring equipment I need, since after 5 years of intensive use, my current set is falling apart and taped up, though I've already purchased the vast majority of it, so that would be on a reimbursement basis. And then I'd have appreciated it if I was permitted the use of the college's facilities so I could record content in a bigger space than my compact living room. I intend to make at least 1 video dedicated to each sponsor over the course of this program. Then I'd have links to all the sponsors in the description of every relevant post I make in the 2-month period. I'm happy to hear suggestions if sponsors have a concept they'd like me to consider for their dedicated video. Looking back now, I was really at my capacity, so I'm kind of glad I didn't have to do that, but like that was the intention, and I would still like to do that going forward. Now I am not trying to actively do bootcamp while moving house, and I have a lot of furniture. I also had an idea that is a little less conventional. I'm already in discussions with one brand about possibly releasing a line of martial arts inspired gym wear that I design and then manufacture, but there's a more unique product I've wanted to release for a few years now. I just didn't know how to go about producing it. The item is a breaker board holder that, instead of needing a huge metal stand, can be mounted on weightlifting racks with a standard J-hook type gym pin, allowing a more lightweight option for martial artists who want to train destruction without needing a partner that may risk injuring. I do have a few blacksmith friends I've discussed the idea with, plus a connection who is very reputable in fabrication manufacturing, who may have a viable option for long-term production. Regardless of the organisation I end up making my manufacturer for the long term, it might be possible to have some engineering, fabrication or welding students, whatever seems most applicable, work with me to create the prototype. I could then take this prototype to the manufacturer to work from. In an ideal world, I'd suggest all parties work together to create a work experience opportunity for the students. Here's the link to my landing page where I'm collecting emails of those interested in updates leading up to the Ultra MMA event. It contains the date and location for the fight. Those who sign up for updates will receive them over the course of the MMA training period. Going international. As I grew up in a financially disadvantaged home, I never really got a chance to go on many holidays when I was younger. Those I did get to experience were few and far between. They tended to be basic British seaside trips centered around my sister's dance competitions before my mum had to focus on becoming my dad's carer. Obviously, I enjoyed that time, but it didn't touch the urge for adventure that just kept growing bigger and bigger. Since I came home from my taekwondo break, I was very focused on building my career and solidifying a reputation in the UK taekwondo community. Though I've collected medals from the majority of the landmass, with still a couple of gaps to fill around the Highlands and the east of England, I have got some from Lincolnshire now. I have never competed abroad. I originally joined the ITC squad as it was promoted to me as a way to have our competitions funded and be taken abroad at the NGB's expense. It was a relatively new team at the time, so though I'd proven my ability as competitor of the year, the squad coaches were reluctant to organise such a venture until the rest of the team was placing consistently. I didn't waver and attended training most months despite the locations requiring relatively expensive travel on top of the session fees. That was in addition to competitions we were told about regularly with less than a month's notice. It also ended up going from "we pay for everything" to "we will reimburse your entry fees for the events we host and our partners." I remained consistent for years in spite of feeling like I wasn't getting what I was promised out of this relationship, as I had strong emotional ties to my team, but I eventually decided I had to go independent. The final push being that my financial situation had become fragile. It's a good thing I did, as by the end of that time, I was down to my last month of emergency fund, which wouldn't have been there if I'd kept up with squad expenses. So having felt a little jaded by the promise of international travel, I decided I was finally going to make this happen for myself. I have a holiday fund I've been building up at a snail's pace since lockdown. It was originally intended to go to Okinawa and ideally an extended tour of Asia, where I could hopefully stop in Korea to be a taekwondo geek for a bit. But I've come to accept that at the pace I was going, I wouldn't be leaving the UK for several more years. So I dipped into this fund to take myself to Belgium next month in January, so February. I chose Flanders Fields because this is a very popular first foreign competition for British taekwondo athletes. It's close enough to home. I can use this opportunity to teach myself how to travel internationally with low risk, and most importantly, they offer unique medals. At this point, I primarily choose my events to avoid duplicates on my trophy shelf. Hopefully I can use this as a springboard to expand my foreign network, and I'm insanely excited to vlog the trip. Since I had to put a hard stop to competing around October last year due to equipment falling off me from wear and tear, I decided to splurge on a total gear update that is uniquely on brand. That way I enter the dojang at Dineka with complete main character energy. You'd be shocked how hard it is to find purple sparring gear that meets taekwondo regulations. Very few brands manufacture open hand gloves and helmets with crown coverage in colours outside of black, red and blue. So this was a months-long endeavour in itself. Plus an even longer hunt for my kit bag that stores my regular gear, my backup sets in case of reg variations, my vlogging equipment, and can still act as a suitcase for clothes and all other bits that come with travelling. It was inevitable I'd have to check a bag, so I didn't compromise. After a failed attempt from AliExpress, which lied about its size and has since been delegated to the MMA kit bag, I splurged on a medium-sized dream duffel. This monster was designed for dance competitions and works as storage, a travel wardrobe, and a functional base camp at event venues. I spent about 4 hours live streaming a total kit show and tell, and I can't wait to release that cut down. Still can't wait to, especially because the live stream kind of failed for a reason. Just this one event has been a very costly venture for me. Luckily, most of the expenses were one-off purchases that are expected to last me between 5 to 15 years, but even just the travel and hotel costs has left a dent in what has taken me years to set aside. I can only imagine my wanderlust is going to get more ferocious after February, so I'm looking for a partner that is equally as keen to find international recognition while still allowing me to maintain my independent voice and brand tone as a martial artist and content creator. And then we get into the financial breakdown. Below, you'll find the costs of the different sponsorship options I'm proposing, though it would naturally be wonderful to find a sponsor who wants to take up every option. I'm also open to entering into discussions with multiple investors who wish to pick and choose how they would like to support me. Option A, Ultra MMA costs. As detailed above, taking part in Ultra MMA training is free, but they do require you provide some equipment for yourself in order to train within their safety regulations. This is different to Taekwondo regulations, so I needed to purchase new gear for this sport and a dedicated lightweight bag to take to the session. I was able to get most of these items with a wholesaler discount due to a friend's business account with the manufacturers. You know, show I'm frugal and not wasteful. Transport costs are approximate, as I will need to move house before the end of the training period and fight night. I'm not going to read the whole graph out to you, but the total cost everything came out to £342.54. Oof. And it was more than that in the end, because I did Shark Tank sessions, which is an independent fee directly to the coach, Brian, who hosted it. So More than that, actually, looking back. And I had to buy different gloves because my gloves ended up not being the regulation they wanted in the end. And I had to get different clothes because my training clothes were not appropriate for MMA, because I had like my dobok, which I knew wouldn't work, but I also had like my gym sets, but they were mainly skirts, so that wasn't allowed because of excess material, so I had to buy more clothes. So like more than that. At this point, I'd estimate it was closer to like 550 or 600. I don't know. I've not done the maths on it. Option B, Flanders field costs. As detailed above, these costs include the amount I've paid for a kit to replace my worn out default set, new luggage I can use over the long term, and one-off costs for this specific competition. The shipping for the headguard appears excessive. This is because the headguard, kick boots, and open palm gloves all came from America. It was cheaper to have the items delivered to a friend of mine in the States, who then bundled them to send on. I've attributed this cost to the headguard. Due to the per-event payment structure of this competition, I intend to enter into individual sparring, destruction, and team sparring if I can be placed into a team, as I will be traveling alone. I've scheduled this to be a 5-night, 6-day trip, with the first 2 focused on the competition itself and the remaining days centered around content creation and tourism, which, like, I'm so happy with how that went. When I can actually... Oh, hiccups. When I can actually get the series out, I'm gonna be so happy. Like, I was debating like how many videos does it warrant, and I feel like it should just be a separate video a day per day of the trip, because like it's just a lot. That was a lot, but it was so great. Cost more money than I estimated for this, which I wrote down as £1,441.98. It costs more money than that. Oh, just thinking about how much I've spent. Oh my god, like being an athlete, like this isn't even me being a pro athlete. This is me going as like an independent, I'm gonna say amateur taekwondo athlete, because like that, but that term kind of like means things that in the MMA world that it doesn't mean in the taekwondo world. I've always just described myself as semi-pro, because like I've never had people pay me to do martial arts, but I have had people pay for me to do things at times. So like, not sponsorships per se, but like people paying my expenses that I didn't cover. So yeah. And also, a lot of people are going to be like, why do you have to get purple everything? Why does it have to be like the weird gear from America and Australia? And it's like, for the brand, do you know the best fighters? They're not just good fighters. They're successful because they've built a brand. Like Helena Jiu-Jitsu girl, she's coming up right now. She's doing really great because she had the twin pigtails and she always has the long rash guards. She's a nice heavyweight woman who wears long rash guards, which I think is actually less... I don't know how that's comfortable for her, because I hate the feeling of restriction that gives me, but like it works for her and she has this aura about it. Paddy the Baddie, that's a whole thing. People who get somewhere in the fighting world also have a brand. And I have literally aura farmed people into like refusing to fight me multiple times. Like, it's a thing. So it's very important. And I feel like business people who are trying to sponsor athletes understand that. Option C, future one-time competition fees. As hypothetical future events are difficult to account for, I would estimate costs to be in the region of £1,000 for European competitions. Those further afield would probably end up closer to 2k plus. This option is likely best suited to a sponsor who wants to build a long-term working relationship and is able to advise on a case-by-case basis. Events local to the UK can be as cheap as £150 if they're close to Manchester, to maybe £500 if they require major travel and 2 nights away. I would like to aim for at least 1 competition a month, with international travel on a quarterly basis at minimum. Option D, ongoing training financial support. This option is for those who want to contribute to the monthly costs of my regular training. Though I do have a home gym, my limited space does mean it would be preferential to maintain a gym membership as well, for access to a wider range of specialized equipment, plus wellness facilities that help my chronic medical conditions like a pool, steam room, sauna, etc. I currently get by on using friends' guest passes when they occasionally have one spare. Travel expenses are approximate, as I'm regularly able to get lifts to class from my clubmates. I get the train and bus when that isn't possible. My rail card makes this 1/3 cheaper. It would be nice to finally offer them something for the favour though. The squad training sessions I now sometimes attend are run by the same coaches as the ITC squad I was a member of. They have recently detached from that governing body to form their own CIC called UK Taekwondo. I no longer attend every single session, as I'm no longer a member of the team, but I'd like to visit other organizations' training as a guest on months I don't attend there. The variety in training partners gives me substantial advantage over other competitors and is invaluable to my progress, especially when you consider the fact I only have one other black belt to train with at my club currently. And obviously this is a monthly cost, but I totaled it out to £171.23, which is across all my membership fees and travel and such and such. Didn't even go into nutrition and food on this one. That's like a whole other battle I wasn't ready to maths out in this. Option E, ongoing training / lifestyle stipend, although I guess the food kind of comes into this one. This funding option is definitely the most valuable to me, not in the sense of money, but for peace of mind and stability. I often find myself being dragged away from something I want to do, like training for several more hours that day or sitting down to monologue about the latest event I attended to illustrate all the footage I got while I was there. I have to set those things aside so I can prioritize earning guaranteed money. I'm presently in a position where my current flatmate does not wish to renew the tenancy in our flat with me. This is my ex-boyfriend, who's an absolute prat. Since the Manchester city centre property market is so wildly competitive, my landlord has adopted a policy that will mean I'm forced to move out as well by the end of March 2026. The current structure of my income doesn't bode well with letting agents or mortgage advisors because I don't earn a set salary. I have a collection of micro incomes that fluctuate on a month-by-month basis. I could earn so much in a quarter that I wouldn't need to earn for the remaining 9 months of the year in order to pay my bills, and then I might not earn even half of what I need in that time. So I find myself constantly fluctuating between strictly budgeting to my bare minimum lifestyle and stacking cash back into my savings account to recoup what I spent. I can never feel secure enough to pursue my goals with 100% commitment. I never doubt my ability to earn money, but I equally don't feel safe at any point. This is something I can't say I've truly resolved, but feels less stressful now I moved. This on-again, off-again pattern strips me of a consistent training schedule outside of locking off Sundays as the taekwondo day, and it means I'm constantly having to get over the hump again and again instead of stacking my progress towards the excellence I have always displayed. I get my results, but it feels harder every time as I have this perpetual feeling like the world could end at any moment. So instead of scheduling another podcast shoot or heading out for a padwork session, I'll be sat at my desk trying to slot in the third interview this week for a job I don't particularly feel would be great for my long-term goals amongst my client work, invigilation shifts, and online compliance training modules I completed this same time last year. The constant code switching is exhausting, and it feels like by the time I've completed all that and my chores, then the day is entirely gone. I ran out of time. Guess we'll sleep and try again tomorrow. Because if I don't secure some income I can use as evidence that people with lists of checkboxes they can actually trust, then I might be homeless in a few months. Then where will I be able to use my barbell set or store my studio equipment? You know? So I'm asking that a reliable sponsor sees the value in what I've built over the course of the past 2 decades and is willing to support me enough so as to allow me to do even more for myself and the martial arts community worldwide. I'd like to be able to focus my energy without the risk of the rug being pulled out from under me while I turn consistently growing brands into consistently profitable ones, all while feeling that sense of freedom I get when I step onto the mat and my only thought is to kick someone in the face. I'd like to propose a sponsorship model where, in addition to providing a monthly stipend to cover my base living expenses, we also enter into a merit-based bonus structure. This would introduce additional funding for each medal I earned in the previous month. I would like to request a commitment of a minimum of 6 months, as this is typically the shortest term tenancy a landlord in the area is willing to accept, but longer would be preferable, as I would ideally like to be able to purchase a home for myself in the coming year instead of remaining in the rental cycle. Obviously, rental regulations have changed this as well since I wrote this, but it's not an invalid concern still, and I would still like that structure where there's like a guaranteed minimum so we know that I can live and we can get on with it, and then, you know, bonus for performance basically. So for this one I am actually going to break down the pricing structure that I proposed. So I put minimum required amount £1,500. I don't know about the taxability of this sort of thing, it would probably be taxable. Preferred amount £4,000, and I can't remember how I worked that out exactly, but I did work that out on like what I would like to spend and invest and, you know, put forward for my future over and over. But £4,000. Gold bonus £500, silver bonus £250, bronze bonus £100. And I still think that's a good structure for people who want to do it. Coming to the end now, option F, the final option I gave for people hoping to sponsor me long term. Content creation patron. I'm making this funding application under the athletes and sports people category, so this part of my proposal may seem out of place, but content marketing is the foundation of my marketing strategy for this personal brand. I use my professional skills to bring more attention attention to the sport I love and my achievements within it, thus building authority and reputation in the sector. My podcast interview series With Respect has had great success in the first set of episodes, the premise being martial artists discussing things they wouldn't normally mention in the dojang for fear of being seen as disrespectful. These can be controversial topics or just stories that would be a distraction in the middle of a class. The format has proven very popular, with the number of views far exceeding the number of subscribers on the DebbersDo channel at this time. Still kind of small, but I accept that. It's a newish channel with not as much consistency as I'd like, so I'm proportionately very good. This has been a bit of a soft launch, as I wanted to build a greater backlog of content before marketing the series on other platforms. Unfortunately, I've had plenty of potential guests show interest in featuring on an episode, but never prioritizing the 2-hour shoot in their schedule. I would like to be able to provide some form of financial compensation for my guests. They are essentially appearing as talent, and I think all parties would agree they deserve an appearance fee when, in the long term, I would like to generate revenue from these videos. Providing upfront compensation would also ensure a greater degree of commitment from those who sign up. I would like to be able to post 2 episodes a month, and I propose an appearance fee of £50 per episode, regardless of if the shoot is conducted in person or online. This would make the monthly cost £100 on average, depending on how much we batch the shooting sessions. Alternatively, I have an existing e-commerce storefront I use to manage memberships for my DebbersDo Discord server. This allows members to support my content on either a one-off or rolling basis, where they choose the value and function of their contribution and will receive a special Discord role in return. This Patron role allows them to add events to the publicly viewable calendar, so members can promote their own competitions, seminars, or training to fellow members, amongst other perks. Sponsors are welcome to support me via this platform. And this is still a thing. This is still a thing. If you join my Discord server, then you can find a link to it. You can sponsor me independently. Overall, I would like people to go and vote for me so I can get this sponsorship through angel funding. But outside of that, if you want to sponsor me, the minimum amount is £1. You can sponsor me £1. I'm not at the monetization threshold for this channel yet, but you don't need me to be at the monetization threshold to support me through my Discord server's storefront. So you can become a patron member and support my content, support my journey, just through that means. You can do one time or rolling, it's entirely up to you. You pick the amount, it's just a minimum £1, because after payment processor fees, then I would receive maybe 50p if you send £1, so that's up to you. But it's still a thing, and I would still really appreciate if people wanted to do that. And then this is the last closing paragraph I made. Though angel investment is typically a sponsorship structure that doesn't demand a specific ROI from the beneficiary, I'm more than happy to promote any brands I work with via my own platforms, as well as increasing the sponsors' touch points across my personal network. Thank you for your time. Have a nice day, George Debney, and then I put some emojis that I very commonly use in my content, in my brand. So that is the summary of the sponsorship application I made in January. Things have happened since then. I'm gonna create a new document, so let me go back to sharing my screen. This is the summary of the new document that I was writing for a different application until I got the email about this round of sponsorship funding for £1,000. I'm just gonna it's £1,025 and 50 pence is what's open for people to vote for me, but I'm just gonna say £1,000 for ease of it. So I got the email with 3 days warning that there's going to be a further 3 days of voting. So before the end of next week, a sponsorship vote opens on the 29th at 8 a.m. British time, and then it ends, I think, the 31st at 6 p.m. So that's the duration of the vote time. So I was writing this for another sponsorship application through a governing body that I'm familiar with and I'm long since associated with, and for their grassroots fighter fund. So that's what this opening line is about. But I was writing this for another purpose, and then the sponsorship thing came up first. So I'm just mentioning this here because this is applicable to multiple types of funding. I just haven't finished writing it yet.